G'day legends, salty frothers of the highest order, I'm sure. Welcome to the Spearo Podcast. I'm your host, Shrek. Today we're chatting with two Kiwi mermaids. They are brand new hosts of an awesome podcast called the Spearo Diaries. These two ladies are proper frothers. I can't exaggerate that enough. Laura and Elise, they talk all about their struggles with equipment, comp diving, all sorts of different challenges with spearfishing in New Zealand, and we froth out on their brand new podcast. They are full of energy, very down to earth. Really, really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you do too. Before we get there, I had a couple of quick reviews and a voice message. I'm loving the voice messages, guys. I've had a few. One was bungled due to some software issues, I think, but a few are coming through. Really appreciating it. Go to noobspearo.com, head up into the menu, give back, and you can go to Nooba Stories and leave me a voice message. I'm chasing rants. Love a good rant. Tell me about what you're angry about in spearing, what we can all do to just be better spearos and people in general, and I love it. But we're going to get to that voice message from Levi in just a second. Before we do that, wanted to read out a couple of quick reviews. Here it comes. So helpful. 5 stars from D. Stangle. Says, this show is the best I've ever listened to. I'm a noob spearo and have been listening for a few weeks now. Started from episode 1. Holy moly. And love, that wasn't part of their review, by the way, and love to listen to Turbo and Shrek go at each other. Best part of my day. Thanks, guys, for all the great interviews and information. If you are buried way back in the archives, I hope you are enjoying Turbo there. Another one, this review from Bendlefish. This guy is a legend. Come out on the Whitsunday Sail and Spear Charter. He says, I booked the Whitsunday's pro sail trip to the Great Barrier Reef with Noob Spearo after listening to last year's podcast earlier this year. Going into this trip with an open mind on what was going to happen, not only did this trip deliver, but it exceeded my expectations, making this an 11 out of 10 trip. Going from diving new depths consistently with Shrek to the laughter on deck and fun times, this trip is something I want to be able to do year in, year out with Shrek. If you've been looking at any trips or courses with Shrek, I'd highly recommend anyone to his courses or to anyone that wants the best of the best from a quality and honest spearo. Thanks, Shrek, again on the trip of a lifetime. I had a lot of fun with Bendlefish, and that is a very, very kind review. I'll give you the hot tip. I tell you what, we were spoiled with the amount of legends we had on this trip. Eckhart and I, it made us want to run more trips. I tell you, I'll give you the hot tip. It was a proper froth fest. But hey, let's get into this voice message. We'll have a listen to Levi, and then we'll go straight into the interview with the Spearo Diary ladies, Laura and Elise. Here we go with Levi.
G'day, Shrek. I just want to say a massive thanks for this incredible resource. What a ripper. The Noob Spearo podcast is sensational. I got into this sport only a couple of years ago, and I binge listened to every episode available at the time, and there was a good 200 or so there, right from number 1 with Simon Tripp all the way through to the latest at the time. I'm now up to episode 269. Of course, there's number 270 out, which I've got to listen to, and I will really soon. The tips and tricks that you guys provided in this podcast were sensational, and I attribute the ability to get down to a 10-metre dive depth really quickly in my spearfishing career to that information. And of course, diving with some other better spearos like my brother, which was obviously very helpful. Anyway, I've progressed past there. I'm really loving the time in the water, and I'm still loving your podcast. There's great tips on there at the beginning and intermediate levels and even advanced levels, which I'm not at, around, breath holding, diving techniques, streamlining, hunting techniques and the like. When I talk to people about the spearfishing lifestyle, they often get excited, want to know more about it. Then, inevitably, they'll ask how they can get into it, and I always give them one bit of advice. Go and listen to the Noob Spearo. Get stuck into it, and then if you're still frothing, go out and get some good gear. Buy once, cry once, get the best you can afford. Anyway, mate, I've been meaning to do this for ages. I just want to say a massive thanks. I love the content. I love the people you get on to interview. I love the banter. I don't even mind the odd poo story every now and then. Makes me laugh. Thank you very much. Hope to see you out there one day. Love to buy you a beer. Thanks, mate.
Hey, live it, breathe it with today's show sponsor, Adreno. They are the world's largest dive store, and they have an ever-growing range of equipment for frothers just like you. The store is staffed by legends who absolutely live and breathe the spearfishing lifestyle. Check it out. They have hassle-free returns. They've got a price match guarantee in Australia and always flat rate shipping, and you can even use Afterpay. Check them out at adreno.com.au. Noob Spearo's longest running partner. Massive thanks to them who keep powering the Noob Spearo podcast. Absolutely mint customer service. Specialty spearfishing equipment, elite spear gun performance components, unforgettable reliability. You want to find out where to buy this? Punch in Neptonics.com and shop at the best US spearfishing store, Neptonics.com. Free shipping to the lower 48 when you spend over $199, and you can use the code NOOB10 to save 10%. This is your chance to save dosh. Buy deadly good gear and experience A-grade customer service. Will you shop with the best? Visit Neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to start shooting 35-pound muttons tomorrow. Actual performance may differ from advertisement. Please refer to terms and conditions to see if you're eligible to be a legend like Shrek. This advertisement was not even endorsed by Jerry and the team at Neptonics. Hoorah and God bless America. I love companies and people that challenge and poke fun at political correctness. Fuck the Taxman does exactly that with gear that we can identify with. The frustration of being taxed. Go to fuckthetaxman.com to check out a huge range of UV-resistant sun-safe shirts, hoodies, shirts, stickers, and more that celebrate the spearfishing life. Recently, I really like the look of some of the boat wraps and boat decals. Go to fuckthetaxman.com, check out what they've got. Use the code NoobSpeara at fuckthetaxman.com and get a free hat of your choice when you spend $100 or more. Check it out at fuckthetaxman.com. Guys, welcome to the Noob Spearo Podcast. I'm joined by the two fantastic lady Speara hosts of Spearo Diaries Podcast. It's a new affair, ladies, but it's doing pretty cool. I'm loving your energy on the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, me and Laura, we've had quite a bit of time together, and we figured we should share it with other people because we do talk a lot. So, thought we'd get it out on the podcast.
Let's do something a little bit different. Elise, can you introduce Laura for 30 seconds? Give me
absolutely.
The cliff notes.
Oh no!
All right. Good morning. We have got Laura Kuggeleijn here today. Shark fanatic, absolute slayer. Will ride you right up your butt while spearfishing, always making sure you're safe.
I did hear her say on a previous Spearo Diaries podcast that it only happened one time in her defence. It was.
To be fair, I think it has been a few times. Might have fabricated that answer a bit. Good research, though.
Sometimes you come up from a dive and she'll literally be closer than you, than your actual, how far you can see her.
Yeah.
So we're like, whoa, hey.
Yeah.
It's been a good way to learn.
Yeah.
All right, and Laura, can you introduce Elise?
Elise, ocean joy, Clynes. Won't let you have a drink because you better keep swimming, but she will shoot all of the good fish. It's actually pretty difficult without notes.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, probably the biggest ocean Spearo frother anyone will ever meet.
Yeah.
We'll dive in any conditions.
Love it.
We'll still make a good time out of any situation, and just as an absolute frother and slayer, but we'll stab sharks and scorpion fish for you.
Yeah, love it.
Namaste.
She's so much nicer than me. I meant to say nice things too. So.
This is how it goes.
Laura, you're an art teacher by day and a Spearo by every other moment by the sounds of it.
Yes. Yeah, it's a little shocking to some people, and the kids are definitely sick of hearing about it, but
nice.
They get some shark stories. They get some fish pictures.
I've got another school teacher, mate, down south in Taranaki where I grew up, Pat Swanson. He's also a school teacher. He teaches science. Have you come across him?
I haven't actually met him in person, but I've talked to him online a bit, probably because of that. But he's got a wealth of knowledge and has been sent us a few messages. He usually gives me crap about cooking with port eye, so yeah.
Not to toot our own horn, but there's this here which has got
This is what it's like hanging out with her, eh? This is what it's like.
It's got Pat Swanson's name on it, like multiple times.
So just for the benefit of the audio crew here, Elise is holding up an illustrious silver trophy that she's obviously come across in one of her more successful comp outings.
Well, it's just basically filled out by mostly Pat Swanson and then the Shields and a few other people. So.
Which one is?
It does sit on her dining table. That is where she keeps it.
I'm not just being a loser. Well, maybe.
Most parents at least have their kids like ribbons and certificates and trophies up, but you've got your own. I love that. It's
They're going to need to start bringing some home, eh?
Yeah. What you should do is just hang up their drawings that when they're young are pretty crap, and then your trophy next to it. So there's that.
Yeah. We'll see what they can, put them in the water, and then they can start thinking about that one day, No.
Yeah.
But yes, Pat Swanson,
Way to embarrass yourself immediately, God.
So, Laura, like the crossovers with teaching art and then, like you're obviously like really social in that role and then teaching all these young little frothing minds. And then you're out enjoying the spearfishing lifestyle with every spare moment you've got. Talk to me about the benefits of sort of having a teaching job and then heading out into the ocean.
I think the obvious one, lots of holidays. No, it is really like, I came into teaching, like, I guess later on in life, being a little bit older to get into teaching, and it is honestly like doesn't even feel like a job. Like if there's anything other than spearfishing that I'm like, this is the best thing, like this is what I was meant to do with my life, it's teaching. Like I love it and it doesn't feel like I'm working.
Oh, nice.
When I'm actually at school hanging out with the kids. And yeah, like I've worked in a number of different schools and stuff, and I only got into spearfishing in the last couple of years, but being able to, know that you've got upcoming time off and sometimes an early afternoon to go and head out spearfishing definitely helps. But I think it makes me remember like how important it is to be passionate about hobbies and like get involved in things and share those things with kids, because I'm pretty big on when I'm teaching, like letting them know a bit about who you are outside of school. Like I remember thinking that my teachers were losers with no life, they just came to school and like whatever. So I think it's important that they know that that the ocean's an awesome place to enjoy, and a lot of schools I've worked in, kids don't get access to the ocean or they can't swim very well. They don't know much about the natural world. So, I guess there's quite a lot of different crossovers and, just the whole learning part of the journey of like becoming a teacher, but also learning to be a spearer. Like there's definitely a lot of correlations between that and learning off other people and stuff when you're new to something. So
lots of being outside your comfort zone there, Laura. Do you thrive on that? Like,
I don't know if I thrive on it, but I've made myself do it. Like definitely getting into spearfishing this time round, I was like in that stage of my life where I was like, I need to do something new and try something new. And I think it's good to be uncomfortable. Yeah. But I do say that to the kids a lot. So I think it's kind of a good reminder.
And as usual, when you're teaching kids something, and then you kind of feel like that sense of like, I better be like that actually, and not just say stuff like I've got to actually walk the walk as well. Now that's cool. So you mentioned something, you touched on something briefly, and I'd love to cross over to Elise and talk a little bit about her situation, because I know it's very different. But for you, Laura, you touched on energy levels, and like obviously like teaching seems to be somewhat of a pouring out, like getting like people type centered stuff, and then spearfishing can be, although you love, as I've heard on previous Spearo Diaries podcast, you love sort of the team diving aspect, but it's still like a very, self sort of, you know what I mean? Like spearfishing is a very sort of selfish experience in a lot of ways. Like you're not talking, you're not pouring your energy out to people. You're just trying to smash fish and dive well. Talk to me about the energy levels, the crossovers there, if you can, and how that works for you.
Yeah, definitely. Before I did teaching, I was probably a lot more social and had a lot more energy for social things. And then I started to get drained from giving all the energy to kids and teachers and the community, which is awesome, great way to give your energy. But that did make me realise that I needed to kind of be able to be a bit more calm. And also, like you say, you can't talk a lot when you're spearfishing, and I am a chatty Cathy. So it is really cool to have something that has that quiet solo. I mean, obviously you're diving with other people, you're having fun with other people, but it is pretty solo, and it is a really calming, grounding, quiet place to be. And I think at that point in my life when I started spearfishing, I really needed that quiet, calm to balance out that really full-on energy output in a job like teaching. And some time to, not talk all the time has been it's quite surprisingly really beneficial to others and myself.
I always think of spearfishing as kind of like active mindfulness, for those of us that can't sit still. But awesome. Elise, for you, you're a park ranger, is that right?
Yeah, I am recently a park ranger. So I started my job in November. Okay. And before that, I was a canyoning guide since 2009. And then, just because of the park closure that we've had here with Coldie dieback, canyoning kind of took a step down. And then there was COVID. And then during that time, I was track building. And then that's kind of how I got into being a park ranger. So,
nice. Yeah. Track building. I remember the national parks in New Zealand are phenomenal, the walking opportunities in the mountains and the ranges.
Yeah.
In Taranaki, we had the Puakais, the Kaitakis, the Mount Egmont or Taranaki. And then, there's so many cool opportunities. It's a big part of the New Zealand lifestyle. And in Taranaki, it was you could go skiing and then an hour later you could be in the water going surfing or spearing.
Yeah, it's a pretty special place.
And so that'd be a cool gig. You touched on too, ecotourism, that's a massive part of New Zealand's sort of economy, or it was. They sucked me down that rabbit hole. That's how I got in the underwater world.
Perfect. Yeah.
Ended up going into scuba diving. I think the same year I got my scuba diving instructors in New Zealand, 10,000 other people got the same qualification. And that's
a lot, yeah.
And at the time, 1,000 people were employed in the industry from one end of the country to the other.
Yeah.
So you did the same path. You were in ecotourism, and then now park ranger is a bit of a different sort of thing. Are you working in small teams? I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah. I guess it's kind of way more on the conservation side of things. Instead of taking tourists and rappelling down waterfalls and jumping into pools and stuff, you're out on the beach getting into little burrows and trying to find little blue penguins and hanging out with geckos, and then also at the same time getting all scratched up in the bush, doing your bait stations. And yesterday we went out through the Pararaha and we're marking out the GPS spots for where we will put our signage for wayfinding. So it's pretty cool. You get to run around the hills, and there's a lot of autonomy in it, but it's also a lot of self-drive. So you kind of go out and you have to do all of your own, I guess you have to make up your week. So have a look around in the park, see what needs to be done. With that, we also run a farm. So I've been learning how to farm as well. We've got 54 cattle. So that's been a new thing for me as well, which has been quite cool. Last week also fencing and learning how to tie the wires, and so it's a jack of all trades kind of job.
And then you're a mother of two, and you guys both love doing comp spearing. And
we do.
And you're trying to fit all this in, and you decided to start a podcast as well.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, love it.
We're busy enough. Thought we'd add 4-hour sleep days into our cycle.
Yeah. Well, as a mum, you don't get a lot of sleep anyway, so I figured, let's just do something fun with this. I don't know. You got to go hard at life, you only get one shot. It's not it's not a test run, so I figure, why not, Yeah.
Cool.
Somehow it's all balancing, just.
So where do you guys live in the same area, or?
Yeah, we lived in the same house for for a year.
Okay.
And then we just recently moved out. I moved into a ranger house. She moved closer to her school. And so we were the day we moved out, because we always talked about doing a podcast, and then the day we moved out, we realized we might not spend so much time together, and we were real sad about it. So we're let's start a podcast.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, to be fair, we joked about it for ages, and the whole time we were living together, we'd be oh, yeah, we should do that sometime. And I don't know what it was. It was suddenly moving out, we were oh, we should actually do this. And we spend all our time talking about spearfishing, watching spearfishing YouTubes, going to and from comps and trips, and we're talking about it anyway, and we're talking to all these awesome people that we've met after comps and, on their boats, and just every time we get a chance to, pester people, we're talking away. So we kind of just thought, why wouldn't we try and capture some of their stories and share our journey? And look, if no one listens to it but our mums, like whatever.
Yeah.
Because,
Shout out to my mum. She was the only listener for the first few years, and then I don't know what happened, but just some really kind and charitable people started listening, so it's been great.
Awesome. Shout out to Shrek's mum.
Yeah. Moira, she's down south in Oamaru, actually. My parents run a
very Oamaru name. That's awesome.
Yeah. But it's cool. It's cool listening to you guys' podcast too. It does help me sort of revisit a lot of the country where I grew up. Talk to me about spearfishing then. So Elise, it sounds like you're sort of the slightly more experienced of the two of you guys. I love the sort of the banter you guys have, like Laura being slightly more inexperienced and a little bit humble about it, and then you're also humble, Elise, but sort of a little bit further along. Is that kind of right? And I'd love to hear about how you got into it all.
I'd say the only difference is that I've just been going a little bit longer than Laura. Like she's, for what she's picked up in the last year and a half, 2 years. 2 years, yeah. She's absolutely crushed. So
yeah.
I took her on her first dive, and then I was like, I'm going to put time into this one. She's going to be a winner. So she's...
To be fair, I've had a fast track. Thanks to Elise and a few other people, I've had a massive fast track into all of the experience I have had. So, and a long way to go, but yeah.
We just we figured at the start, because neither of us have a boat and we didn't know really anyone with boats. So we always had a rule that it would be if someone says, do you want to come on the boat? We just say yes and just figure everything out afterwards.
Nice.
So yeah, most of the time it works. Sometimes it doesn't. It's been really cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Laura, and I think both of you guys learned as adults spearfishing. There are a few shortcuts to learning big skills like spearfishing, and it sounds like Laura, you guys have both got around sort of more experienced people. You're into comps, and the adult brain is a much better way of figuring out a logical strategy to learn something. Like when you're young, you just kind of just jump in and have a go. I think when you're older, you're a bit more intentional about it all. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we're both pretty intentional in that we unpack experiences. We still have heaps of fun and we don't sit there with a notepad after a dive and be like, well, we had 17 drops and I thought we were pretty efficient. There's nothing going on like that in a nerdy way. But I think I've picked up some of those habits off Elise and we do unpack stuff. But I think I'm a kinesthetic learner, is it?
Yeah.
I could read and watch and all these different things, but until I do things, I don't really soak in how not to do something or do something. So even though it's been really useful watching Elise and a lot of other people and asking about it, I think I'm just such a hands-on learner that something like spearfishing, I just have to dive all the time. And someone told me that once. They just said, just go as much as you can. Yeah. Say yes to every offer, like Elise was saying, say yes to every offer in a boat and just go all the time. And that's, I don't know, I think that's the best way I have found learning.
I listened to your guys' interview with Darren, and he brought up some good points, which is, and a lot of spearos have that same conventional wisdom, time in the water is always better than time spent in a book or time listening to a podcast or time watching a YouTube video. But I feel like if you do both, then you are sort of capturing the benefits of it and then immediately applying it in a practical sense. And that's kind of how I think good learning is structured anyway.
For sure. When I started out, I didn't have any friends spearfishing, so or just any friends. Laura's laughing at me. She's like, you've got one now. So when I first started, I didn't really know anybody, and it took me a while to find a group. So right at the start, before I was in a club or had done a freediving course, there was time where I was just going out by myself, probably doing some dodgy things. Definitely doing dodgy things that I didn't know about.
Give me one. Give me some examples.
For example, I'd be I'm going to go train for my breath hold. So I'd go for a run. I'd run up to the top of Kitty Kitty Falls, and then I would, have my mask with me, jump into the waterfall, which is probably 2 meters deep, and I'd hold a rock on the bottom. To see how long I could hold my breath for. And then probably as I came up, members of the public were like, oh my God, that girl's alive. Good. Dodgy stuff like that. Just going out diving by myself. Because, I just didn't, I would try to talk people into coming with me and be like, some people would, they'd swim around behind me. But, we wouldn't know how to help each other.
You glazed over some stuff you've done wrong. Why would training by yourself in a rock pool, holding onto a rock in the middle of nowhere, Why is that dangerous?
Well, it's a pretty good way to kill yourself. Which I didn't know earlier. So you always should be diving with a buddy, especially if you're doing anything breath holding around water, you know. You could kill yourself holding your breath in your kitchen sink, you know, like with shallow water blackout, it literally can be, you know, obviously in shallow water. So, yeah, it is a really dangerous thing to do, and not having someone there to be able to pull you back up. So luckily I've got Laura now for that.
We were actually talking about it earlier, just about like the different kinds of pool training that you can and can't do on your own, even, you know, at our level. Because, you know, we met at a winter pool training group for, you know, skills for spearfishing.
Spearfishing fundamentals.
Spearfishing fundamentals, bunch of legends.
Yeah.
And that's how we met, and I hadn't even been actual spearfishing yet, and so that's how I met Elise, and she took me out on my first dive, and, you know, the rest is history. And like I caught her infectious love for spearfishing and caught the bug myself. But there's just so many aspects of safety that, I don't know, you just can't risk any of that kind of stuff, even when you're, I guess, really experienced, which you would know.
And lucky for me, because it had been a few years since you started, not to be cringy or anything, but spent a lot of time before I met the crew that I dive with now, like just listening to so many like Noob Spearo podcasts and just trying to fill myself with as much information as I could, and just listening to the small little niches and being like, oh, you know what, I need to do a freediving course, and like, that's a clever like little tip, or, you know, like just learning those basics
and
listening to potties and stuff.
And as with probably more than half of my listeners, you've been like, I could do that better than him. I'm going to start my own.
As if.
Nah, actually, you know what the real reason was is you weren't flying them out quick enough, and we were like, well, we've listened to that one on that trip, so what are we going to listen to now?
Yeah.
So we started being like, oh, well, we might as well record our own on the way home because we've run out of episodes to listen to. But honestly, we froth it. Like, we listened. That's how I got into Noob Spearo. Elise was like, oh, look, this is really good. It's helped me learn. You should listen to this.
Yeah, sick.
Every car ride we were on, we're like, oh, is there a new episode? And then we'd catch up about it and be like, oh, did you hear that one? Like, and you genuinely, like, it's cool to hear other people in other parts of the world being so excited about something that we're excited about, and then also learning about all these different places and different tips. Like, it's just a really cool way to learn to be able to, you know, drive somewhere and still fill your ear holes with spearfishing goodness. So
some parallels there, ladies. Like, I met Turbo in a pool training group, and that's how we started the Noob Spearo podcast too. And I
didn't know that.
Yeah, well, it was always kind of my idea, but I pitched it to Turbo one day at a meeting at a McDonald's, and then and we started it. But similar energy to what you guys have got, you know, like we're very good friends, and, you know, like loved hanging out, and he was a funny bastard too, a bit like you guys. And
you guys were like pretty hilarious when you were together. It was some good episodes.
I miss that aspect of it. But you guys have got the same great energy. I think when we started, there was one other spearfishing podcast, but it hadn't really started properly. Now there's like 20-something. I mean, what are you guys going to do differently than everyone else? Not that you have to either. Like, I mean, your own perspectives are very different. Your own, you know, where you live is different, and, you know, I'm not. But I just want to know kind of what you guys are going to come at it with. I know I've heard, like, you've covered a few comps and you talk about your own experience a lot, which is great. But yeah.
So I think what our plan is so far is just like, obviously just to be ourselves, and not try to be anything else. And then, like, we want to kind of like do some interviews, like, and learn stuff from people, but then we also want to do it like Spearo Diaries, like almost like as our own diary, you know, like the dive trips that we do when we're coming home, instead of just talking about it like to each other, we can just record it and be like, unpack the day, you know, and just we had like for example the very first one, and might not just be, well, it might be because everyone was just being nice to us, but heaps of people were like, I felt like I was in the back of the car with you. Yeah. Like I've been here before. I've been on so many trips where I've listened to this, and that was quite cool. Yeah. So yeah,
we kind of thought like interview other people, and then maybe the ones about our comps or us talking. We've got heaps of plans for like certain episodes we want to cover with just us two. But we were a bit like, are people going to actually want to listen to us? Like, let's try and focus on interviewing like interesting people. But what we've found is the feedback we're getting is that people do really like our energy, and we have people, telling us, oh, you guys are real, and feel like we're there with you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we probably should just take a bit of feedback, I guess, and keep trying to do the ones with us as well, because I think that is something different not many people have done. And we did do some market research into the different podcasts that were out there, and we'd already been listening to heaps of them anyway. I don't think there's any girls doing it, which doesn't matter, but we kind of thought that's the bit, got a vagina, that makes us different. But
there it is.
Also, on a side note, we were like, look, we don't have 8-packs. We don't have many pictures of us in bikinis, so we're probably just going to have to try and be funny. Which, awkward if we're not funny either.
Be funny, right?
That could be your guys' tagline. Go spearfishing, have a vagina, Spearo Diaries is for you.
Yeah, I'm going to regret saying that, I think. So my brother is going to... Sorry, Ryan. I'm not even going to apologise to my parents. I'm just going to apologise to my older brother.
No, it's cool. I love the humour. It's good.
It's all right.
Let's get infinitely actionable for a bit. So I would love to hear sort of where you're at now in your hunting journey, what you're kind of geeking out on. Because New Zealand's got amazing sort of benthos, a lot of variety. Arguably not as many species as sort of more subtropical environments, but still the hunting opportunities and the sheer biomass out there, and still a remarkably well managed fishery from my perspective, living over here now in Australia. But where are you at with your hunting? What styles of hunting are you enjoying? And sort of walk me through what your focus is with applying techniques on different species and stuff. I'd love to geek out for a bit.
Yeah, sure. I guess there's a couple things for me at the moment. For me, I'm just trying to get a bit more comfortable at depth. So just for example, hunting trevally or something on the bottom. So going on your weed lines, diving down and just laying on the bottom and just waiting for stuff to come in. That's something I'm working on at the moment and something I need to work on because I've got a trip coming up to Great Barrier Reef that is apparently you need to hunt like that. So I'm oh, okay. And then also, honestly, just trying to get quiet. I'm trying to get as quiet as I can for snapper. So taking things a lot slower. Had a bit of advice over summer that maybe I need to give myself at least 10 seconds before I, actually start approaching a ledge for snapper just because I need to make myself not care about them and make them feel like I'm not even there, because maybe sometimes I do put a bit of energy into the water and get all excited, so I have to kind of tone that down, I guess. Yeah. How about you, Laura? She's just started getting into snapper too, so.
Yeah, and I guess everything's pretty new when everything is, a new species and all that kind of stuff. So I was pretty stoked recently to get it was 4 or 5 pretty good New Zealand species in the space of one weekend. I was whoa, I'm actually intentionally able to seek certain fish
that's
pink maomao have always been pretty hard, so pretty deep most of the time, and just all those different things when you can't dive that deep for certain fish and then you can. But I put a bit of focus on kahawai, koharu, pink maomao, and then recently snapper because I'd only ever got one snapper. And to be fair, it was a bit of a situation that didn't really count as doing all the things you do to get snapper. So my most recent focus, I guess, for summer had kind of been ask everybody I dived with that offered me help or advice about snapper snooping and kind of actually go about my diving for that. So rather than necessarily seeking out kingies, if someone asked me what I wanted to get that day, I started saying, I want to learn to get snapper. So, I've just learnt so much in the last even just 2 or 3 months about, just body position and all those approaches, even how to do proper burleying. Someone told me about using a hammer, and that just game changed for me, which Elise laughed at me about, by the way, my stupid hammers that I keep bringing.
She brought 3 at a time.
I was trying different hammers, okay? There's mallets, there's wooden hammers, there's little,
She got this one that was so small that when she put a hole in it, she just put this tiny 1 centimetre wide hole in the top and was there you go. And I was I'll just go get a rock and just bash that up a bit more. She's got the right hammer now and it works.
I'm still convinced that little holes in Kina slowly release the burley meat. But anyway,
can you that's a common technique in New Zealand, but not so common in other parts of the world. Can you just explain what you're doing there and what a Kina is and what the situation looks like?
Sorry, rambling away.
No, all good. It's good. I love it.
Yes, sea urchins. Is that the right name?
Sea urchins.
Yeah. So Kina, I guess most of the areas that me and Elise would dive around New Zealand, there'd be quite a few Kina, and they're relatively shallow most of the time, so they're really good for smashing up and releasing the roe and all the juicy bits inside. And snapper particularly are known to really like them. I also like hunting things like portae and pigfish, and they like them too. I guess if you're not using fish burley and you're wanting to set a burley, a lot of people use rocks and crush them, and I used to watch Elise doing that, and a mate of ours got Kina in his hand and ended up in hospital and stuff. So I was just like, I'm not loving this, getting Kina in my hands all the time. And I was struggling with my breath hold at the start to even like find a rock and then crush enough Kina. It would take me like half an hour to like crush like 6 Kina. So I just started asking people how they did it, and I watched a couple of people, and a mate of mine that I dive with up north, he's probably going to be gutted. I've stolen his secret now. Told everyone. He just told me about using a hammer. So I've just been trying to get the hang of that, and worked really well. My last snapper, which is my second snapper, is because our fish burley didn't work and it got sharked. So we moved spots, and I did a Kina burley, and I got my second snapper and stoned it. So I am all about hammering Kina for a burley.
So the idea of a Kina bomb or a Kina burley is that like you get as many as you can. Usually I'll start with like 10 to 12 and then kind of just try to fill up a whole big like area down at the bottom, and with an area where there's a ledge, and hopefully you can have the sun behind your back over the ledge, so it kind of has a bit of a shadow so that the fish can't see you up there. And what you're looking for is like a good spot where you can have your burley at the bottom, sneak over the ledge as quietly as you can so that you can shoot them from above or from an angle that is easier to shoot. So it kind of gives you time to look over, see what's coming on it, after giving it like 5 to 10 minutes. It kind of brings in the fish from that area. And then, you can look over the ledge and be like, ooh, that one's pretty good, and spend your time lining it up before you actually take the shot.
Nice.
So that's like the hunting technique.
Ladies,
Exactly what Elise said. Yep.
You've laid out an awesome one there. Have you guys tried adding cray frames to it from like previous eating experiences?
No.
I have not.
I have not even heard anyone doing that.
Could give it a go. Have you given it a go?
Nah, my mate down south, James Sacker, shout out to him. He's got a wicked YouTube channel. Catch it, grow it, cook it. He takes out his old cray frames, and like this is sort of northern New South Wales, central New South Wales coast, and they're chasing eastern rock lobster, which are pack horse over there. But he will use those, and snapper go ape shit for them, eh?
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I've actually got one that I've just finished off last night. So, we can try that next time. Cool.
Yeehaw! Welcome to Depth Charge Charters. It's not just functional and simple spear guns that you can rely on from Killshot. It's Depth Charge Charters as well, part of the Killshot family. These guys go out of their way to ensure you have a great time on the water. They focus in and around freedive spearfishing, but you can go lobster fishing, line diving on a freediving. You can do freediving classes and lessons, even up your spearing game with legendary instructors. Check it out at killshotspearguns.com, based out of Isla Morada in the Florida Keys.
Massive thanks to today's sponsor, Dog and Gun Coffee. It's bloody good coffee, ready for adventure. They use specialty grade beans and roasted fresh in Brisbane by a small Aussie team. Their most popular product, and this is one that I love myself, are the preloaded drip filters, which allow you to have cafe quality coffee anywhere. And I use them out on my Stratty spearfishing adventures. It is legit cafe quality coffee that you can make with simple boiling water. Add your own milk and sugar. Well, that's what I do anyway. Their owners, Sean and Rach, are keen hunters in and out of the water and want to encourage more people to get outdoors. That's pretty much the vision of Dog and Gun Coffee. Check it out at dogandguncoffee.com.au. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10%. Can't get better than that. Go to dogandguncoffee.com.au. Again, hey, I like the Sandbar Dark Roast as well. Check that out at Dog and Gun Coffee.
Spear Ready is a 50-day training program designed to get you in shape to make the most of your spearfishing. It's a 50-day cross-training program designed to put you in shape and not feel like you don't have any breath hold when you arrive on your trip. If you can go spearfishing during the week during this program, you can even subtract something from the workout. I can guarantee that no other prep program is saying that. Check it out at noobspearo.com/spearready. There are always frothers training and trying to prepare and get in shape. It's a great way to stay motivated and do it together with our private Facebook group. Check it out again, noobspearo.com/spearready. I've seen a few like nasty discussions online recently. I think one thing with like having a podcast and stuff is like you're giving out knowledge. Like you guys have given out like a technique here it's an absolute goldmine, really. Like in New Zealand diving, chasing snapper, and there's that old saying, with great knowledge or great power comes great responsibility. I think like with snapper hunting, there have been a few nasty conversations about conservation of them, and people are saying, and I heard Darren Shields. Multiple New Zealand champ. You guys interviewed him. It was a really good conversation, but he was very heavily on the emphasis of, being conservative and looking after what we got and stuff like that. For you guys, where does that sort of conversation enter into your snapper hunting? Like you guys are still like arguably like, probably like 2,000 snapper, like less shot than Darren Shields. But like walk me through what your guys' sort of idea about how conservation plays into arguably having a really good effective technique. I know they're hard to hunt though, so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, luckily for conservation, snapper most of the time are smarter than we are. So yeah, I think it is hugely important, and we do need to be looking after our ocean. We only really take what we actually are going to eat a lot of the time. Like there's no time that we will completely fill up our bin and not eat it or use it. Like we try to do it. I tend to try get like quite a wide variety. So I won't just come home with just a snapper or like a whole bunch of snapper. I'll come home with like, a butterfish, or I'll come home with a snapper and we'll even eat like port-eye. Like we eat the species that people think taste crap, but we generally just have learned how to cook them. So, well, mostly Laura. I haven't quite achieved the same finesse in the kitchen as Laura has.
Have you got 99 spare recipes? Shameless plug.
I do have that, actually. I think we both got that. Yeah, it's great. A mixed bag. I've got one big snapper before. The bigger ones are far harder to catch.
16 pounds, I believe.
Yeah. So it's a big guy, and I was like real pumped with it. But yeah, like I do think that we do try have a really sustainable approach with what we do, and we tend to we eat fish, we catch fish, we freeze it, we only really eat what we catch, and then at the supermarket we barely ever buy meat. So
I think we've had lots of conversations about this, and I think we are aware of some of that public view, especially when you're doing competitive spearfishing, because it goes from being like, and I can say this because I am woo-woo and hippie lala, there is that woo-woo ocean vibe of, it has to be sustainable. We do believe in sustainable spearfishing, but when you say you're competitive, people automatically think that you're out killing everything and slaying everything. You don't care about the ocean, which is so untrue of us and all of the other people that we dive with. But I think it's that thing of, like, it is a sustainable way of fishing. We're going out and getting singular fish that we're choosing and then eating. The way that we discuss it is we don't trophy hunt, but that doesn't mean we're not proud of our catch. Like, I am going to be stoked when I get a big snapper, but I'm going to be mindful of the fact that, like you say, there's regulations in New Zealand. There's a lot of talk about it. We've recently talked to Luke Potts on an interview, and we didn't go a lot into snapper, but we talked to him a bit, and he there's lots of different conversations online about breeders and all that kind of stuff. And if you shoot a little fish, it could have been a big fish. And I think it is a really important conversation, but we believe that it sits right with us to be sustainable fishing and to be thinking about what we're taking home and not taking too much.
Yeah.
But I guess we have to be aware, like you say, you put yourself in that position where people are going to judge what you put online and what you talk about. And I think we'll just keep having conversations with each other about, how we're feeling about that, and just portraying that sustainable, selective spearfishing, while still we're not going to be hiding the fact that we enjoy the sport and we want it to grow and we want other people to be able to go and get their own food from the ocean. I was pretty disgusted. Recently I went to a supermarket. It was on the way to Matariki weekend and we were going spearfishing. And me and my mate were getting food for the trip and there was this tiny little snapper on some ice in the supermarket. And I looked at it and I looked at her and I was like, that is so undersized. Had this big conversation with her about it and there's this like family next to us. There's about 8 of us standing around this fish at the supermarket talking about the size of it. And that's when I found out, I was really dumb of me, but I didn't know that in the supermarket and commercial fishing with snapper, they can actually get smaller ones and sell them, which sounds really dumb. So I think a lot of people, it'd be good to be able to spread that awareness of how we spearfish and how, not us particularly, but how spearfishing people actually do select things and what the regulations are and just our views on it rather than having people just think, you know what, you guys don't respect animals or the ocean because that's just so far from the truth, well, for us anyway.
When I got that big snapper, big for me, I was on a boat with a bunch of Niwa marine biologists and scientists and I pulled it up and I'm like, stoked as, and I'm like, I'm so sorry guys, but I just had to. And they were like, hey, look, like just eat the whole thing, like don't let any go to waste, and like, you know, which I didn't, you know, like, we ate every single part of that fish. So
and in some ways my question was fully loaded, but I feel like every Spearo should be able to articulate what it is that we do. And like in some ways our conversation about how ethical what we do is academic. But spearfishing is a very personal thing. But compared to commercial fishing or even like other forms of recreational fishing, spearfishing is remarkably sustainable. You know, we're highly selective. Even comps these days, like the scorecards and the species available and how they, you know, like upgrade opportunities and all these sorts of other technicalities, like it's all changed. It's all getting better. Most of the time we're marching forward and we are increasingly aware that, you know, how our actions are perceived is as important as the actual reality of what we're doing. Because some people see you hold up a couple of big fish and they're like, oh, look at this. It's, you know, there's some anthropomorphism going on. And I feel like you guys are doing a decent job of representing the ethics of it. But
it's tricky because every photo you take and put up, there's actually a like months and months long journey that you took to get there to get that fish, you know? So it's not just like we're out slaying. It's like, actually, we spend a lot of time learning and being in the ocean to get this.
Yeah.
And by far, I get a lot less fish than any of my buddies, you know, even that do line fishing. So
it's a funny thing. Like we live in this world of sound bites and tiny bits of content on social media. Like a picture tells 1,000 words, but it doesn't really tell the full story, as we know, and you just alluded to. That's what the beauty of a podcast and long form content, which I'm stoked to see you guys, you know, getting into the space and sharing those stories and a bit more of the knowledge around what it is we do. Because I listened to Laura. I think Laura was saying, like, I love fish pics on one podcast that you were talking about.
She does.
And
I do.
And I'm going to be honest, after a few years of it, though, the fatigue of like looking at walls and walls of dead fish, sometimes without context or the story behind it, it does get a little bit fatiguing. But
I don't get joy in seeing dead things, and I know that sounds strange. I did grow up in a deer stalking family, so it's not like I find it damaging to see meat being processed, but being, I guess, my spiritual self, like I do energetically care that I'm taking an animal's life every time I kill it. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but maybe not everyone else feels that way. But that's genuinely how it feels. So it is a weird, strange, personal thing where you have to have that place in your, I guess, heart or your mind that what you're doing is okay with you, and obviously that it's okay with the legal requirements of the country you live in. But yeah, I just get too much. There's too much normal primal hunting instinct in me to also be like, oh, I'm not okay doing that. So I don't actually feel conflicted. But the fish pick thing, it's not great, you know, holding up dead things, I guess. But I think that's why we talked about, that, like you say, being able to share on a podcast a bigger story behind it and the community and the lifestyle behind it, and being able to say that we're going out and enjoying nature and helping our own well-being. There's just so many aspects to it that I think outweigh that part.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. I honestly think like doing a form of hunting, whether it's underwater or terrestrial, it's kind of how conservationists are born. Because like unless there's something wrong with you, and there are people that have things wrong with them, like taking an animal's life is a very personal experience.
I just dropped my earpiece.
Yeah,
Cheers, mate.
Put it
There's a
back
good
in.
buddy right there. You drop
good
something,
buddy.
you drop a knife, you drop a spear gun, you maybe drop a fish. She's got you back.
Dive straight back down for it.
Yeah,
It was the worst nightmare too, dropping that.
oh, nice. Well,
I've got little
Sorry.
ear holes. It's a whole other conversation, my small ear holes.
Carry on, sorry.
No, I was saying, Laura, like taking an animal's life is a very personal thing, and like it gives you a greater sense of appreciation for the animal that you're taking, whether it's above or below the water, and there's a way to go about it, and it's a cool experience. I think it's, like I said, how conservationists are born. So cool. It sounds like
Yeah, we probably spend a lot more time thinking about the animals we take than people would at the supermarket when they're buying a stack of meat, you know?
All right. Actually, while you mentioned that, like Laura, you said like you haven't really bought meat since you started spearfishing. You've just been eating lots of fish.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how it happened. It was more noticeable probably to Elise because we were living together at the time. Might have just been because we're in Piha, but it just turned into this thing where I think because lots of people were talking about my fish were, not Elise, but other people kind of joke about the lame fish, you know, or like, why would you get a port eye? Or, oh, do you like blue mau mau? And a lot of these kinds of fish that were easier to shoot when I started out. And I just thought, I didn't grow up line fishing, so I hadn't done much cooking with fish. So I kind of just went full into it. I was like, right, everything I kill, I'm going to, like, I legit like used to just pan fry this. I didn't descale them. I just cooked them in the pan. I'd eat the tail. Like, it was disgusting when I think about it. But yeah, I just really wanted to be like, right, if I actually kill it and take it home, I'm going to eat as much of it as I can. And then it started turning into this thing where I just thought, I'll see if I can wait till my next dive and not buy any meat. And my dad was providing me with a little bit of venison that he had caught. And I just thought, it's kind of cool to be able to challenge myself to only be eating those things. So it just turned into this thing. So I can honestly, I'll like count on my hands in the last 2 years how many times I've bought meat from the supermarket.
I think that's wicked.
Which
That's really
pretty cool feeling. And it challenges you to cook differently too, and to share it with other people. And like obviously I've eaten the odd meal out and stuff. It's not like I haven't eaten meat in restaurants and stuff anywhere or at a barbecue. But
one of my weird dreams or fantasies is living in a cul-de-sac, like with acreage, and then one of my neighbors does like what's that bread you make yourself, the really nice stuff? Sourdough. One of my neighbors does like homebrew beer, another one does homebrew spirits, and someone's like a real avid hunter, and between all of us we sort of like do a lot of trading and bartering, and then all of a sudden we've got way less of a footprint at supermarkets and saving money and eating really clean and awesome too. I really like it. Actually, mates that are gardeners too, like one of my brothers in Taranaki, he still was running like community gardens and stuff. That would be cool as well, because there's so much work that goes into it. But like I always appreciate it when I get it, but it's hard to do it all and do it all well. It's I think like living in community where you can kind of have these things going on around you and trading with them. That's a cool thing. I miss New Zealand's got a lot more of that, I think, than other parts of the world, and it's something I miss.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Like me and my group of friends, like a lot of them are hunters, so I'll swap like fish for venison and stuff that they've hunted. I've recently just got chickens, and like I'm about to start on my veggie patch again. So like the dream is really to be able to just, put the food on the table that you've either like grown or caught and just have it all in one meal. It's like the most satisfying food you're ever going to have,
You guys touched on it earlier, like you're part of Rob's original group, the Spearfishing Fundamentals. You guys train 2 nights a week. Walk me through, a couple of like average sort of training nights in terms of some of the exercises you do and why you think other people should maybe be part of groups like that.
Yeah, sure. So like an average night, Laura's lucky enough to train twice a night. I'm twice a week. I'm a once a week girl. But so you show up, you'll do some relaxation kind of techniques just before you get in the water. So like doing some breathing, just trying to prepare your mind and just calm yourself down. And then you'll get in, you'll generally do a bit of a warm-up, and that can be like, either just some finning, so just swimming to the end and back, and then we'll do like under overs, which is, or you like swim to the end under the water, swim back on top, swim to the end, you do like 10 of those, and then we'll get into like a CO2 table. And as the term progresses, they do get harder and harder, and you'll start doing like longer swims. And at the end we kind of just generally do something fun, like we'll do like rescue techniques, or it's just something silly like
pretend to be a mermaid or a dolphin. That's always my favourite.
Yeah, blowing bubbles, that kind of thing. Well, like one of them at the end you had to be like, one of them you had to swim out underwater and pretend to be a certain type of fish, and then the person coming after you has to like pretend to hunt you how you would that way. It's like just fun stuff like that. So some weeks you get thrashed, which is awesome because it really, really helps. And then some weeks you're like, oh, actually, like I'm actually doing okay. So that's in the winter months. And in the summer months, we move to Lake Papuki, where we do depth training, like on the rig lines.
Yeah, nice.
It's a really cool environment. You pretty much just pay for your pool entry. So it's like, $80 a term. So it's incredible. It's super awesome.
We're pretty lucky that there's a number of people that are at certain levels in AIDA or qualified instructors like Kiri and Rob. And for us coming in, you start out in kind of the newbie lane and you get that kind of support to make sure that you're safe enough. And that's how we ended up doing our proper AIDA course, because we'd done a winter and then they were encouraging us to do a proper course, and it was through one of the instructors, or through both Kiri and Rob and another instructor, Brad. And we did it like as the group of friends that had met at winter training. So it was just a really
nice.
Easy segue from like, hey, come along to these sessions.
Yeah.
Then come along and do a course. And like I think this is our third winter now that we're doing with the fundamentals. And we just feel really lucky that we've had that support and that program in place. And like I'm really lucky, obviously, that I've met Elise and even been able to have people take me spearfishing. I'd never even picked up a spear gun if it weren't for that pool sessions and stuff. I'm not sure if I would have, definitely wouldn't have been as easy to get into actual spearfishing either.
So
it's been awesome.
Laura, if you can you touch on like maybe how some of the training or even one aspect of it has correlated or transferred to the ocean when you go spearfishing?
Oh man, so much of it. I guess, say like if I take myself back to like the day that I went with Elise, I know one of the things that I found a bit overwhelming was, say, wearing a mask and snorkel. I hadn't really done a lot of that, and I didn't do it in the training a lot, so I regret not wearing it in the pool. That was difficult. I was used to being in the ocean, so that was sweet. But all the other stuff like the holding your breath, the going down, that wasn't hard because I'd done, it was hard, but I didn't have to think about it too much. I was more thinking about the spear gun and what Elise was doing and what fish were there. But those aspects of being able to somewhat equalise, probably doing it badly at the time, but like going down and just, all my technique of actually swimming. Like I think we were in the water for like 6 hours or something.
Hectic.
And, because of the training we've been doing. And because of how me and Elise are anyway, like that wasn't too shocking.
Yeah.
It just took away some of those, I just can't imagine how it would feel trying to learn every aspect of spearfishing all in one day, all at once. Like that's just a lot.
Well, some people have said to me like, like I run spearfishing courses and like for a day and a half we do a freediving course and then really there's a full day of spearfishing. But like we stay in a house together, so the learning is kind of like 24/7. I get home and don't want to talk to anyone for 3 days after it. But like even in a 3-day window, there's only so much you can learn. And really you're probably not going to shoot anyone or kill yourself, and you might have some ideas. Some people sort of get quite a lot out of the weekend and they are, a lot further along than someone that's a year into it. But really like to learn spearfishing, like there's so much to it. Like people beat themselves up because they don't learn or shoot a fish on their first go. And I'm like, that's probably pretty typical, like there's a fair bit going on.
Yeah. There's so many trips I've come back without a fish. Definitely.
That's awesome. So some transferables from the training to the ocean. I love that. And it's a good reason for everyone to try and find a group in their own area. Laura, how come you haven't encouraged Elise to do the Spearity program?
Oh, touchy. She actually signed up. We were talking about this before. I was like, we're going to get on. And he's going to probably be like, how come you two have been asleep on the program?
Because I went to America and ate bagels for 3 weeks in June. So I couldn't quite do the training over there at the same time. But yeah, no, it would have been really good for me to do. I'd love to do the next one.
Yeah, we both signed up. We both talked about it. And then I've been doing it as best I can, but missing a lot of the Zoom calls. Elise had been away. And then it was kind of like, I guess your Spearity program, the whole thing is exactly like we've been talking for the last year, like with comps, like what kind of training should we be doing? All right, we're already doing pool training. Elise climbs and works outdoors. I swim and do yoga, and then we'll talk, we're discussing all of that. So seeing your Spearity program just kind of, I guess, cemented the idea that there's kind of, I personally think there's quite a big hole in like spearfishing competition fitness.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Anywhere, like online or like, we've both been involved in other high-level sport and competitions and training schedules, but because we'd been exposed to this pool training stuff through fundamentals, and then Elise has been in the New Zealand team recently and stuff, great times for her and me spectating on all of that. So I think it got us thinking about what is out there. So it's really cool to see you putting all that together and
absolutely.
Having all those different experts jumping on and just kind of being able to go, right, okay, even this different style of apnea training and, every little bit counts. Like it's just when you're frothing out about getting better at spearfishing and you get so excited about going to these comps, it only makes natural sense that you'd want to go, well, what is it that I can do to feel fitter, to have a better breath hold, like all those different things. So, yes, we both endeavour to be a little more committed to our Spearity programs, but, some is better than none, as you say. So
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's just fitting it in with your busy life. And like Elise got, you guys both got full-time jobs. Elise's got 2 kids, and then you've got a flat-out podcast on top of that as well now. So it's hard trying to fit everything in and go diving, and then you've got crap weather and all the rest of it. So
yeah.
I miss having or being close to a formal pool training group as well, though. Like, it's nice when something's just locked into the calendar, and you can't go every week, you can't go every time, but it's there, and there's always a cool crew. You sort of fall into the mix of what everyone else is doing. I think Rob was saying the training you did was kind of cyclical as well, like 8 or 12 week blocks.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
so you're sort of working up to some big swims, and but I think they've made that group highly correlated with spearfishing rather than freediving, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, which is exactly what I was looking for when I was looking for a club. We had other options like the freediving club and that kind of stuff, but I was specifically like pretty tunnel visioned on how do I get better at spearfishing. So it was, the perfect group for me and perfect group for Laura, and it's been great.
Yeah, we freedive to spearfish, so.
Yeah, me too. At least, so one last thing on like pool training for spearfishing. For the biggest critics of it, like, they sort of dismiss it. What do you say to them? Or like, I mean, we don't have to convince everyone to do what we like to do.
Yeah.
But like, how do you speak to those people?
I mean, it's more time in the water, right? Like, there's no fish, but it means when I go spearfishing on the weekend, I'm going to feel much better. And like my lungs are going to be already warmed up from the week. I definitely think my CO2 tolerance has increased hugely with being able to do the training. And then also just in summer, being able to dive on a rig line to a certain depth, it means when I'm actually diving and I'm at like a lower depth, I'm like, oh, actually, like, this is fine. This is my warm-up. Like, this is where I feel comfortable. And it's made me feel way more comfortable with the feeling of like the squeeze around you. And
Have you guys had any thoughts about what the correlation is between your max line dive depth and then where you should be spearfishing? Or
yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously like kind of what you feel comfortable with, but like my max line depth is like 30, 31. But then when I'm actually spearfishing, 10 to 20 meters is my comfortable, So it's kind of like at the moment I'm learning to feel more comfortable around the 20 meter mark. And that's just probably a head thing because I'm probably more than capable of doing it, but I'm just like, ooh, goodness, like that sounds like a crazy number.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you can dive deep on a rig line, but that's going down and coming back up. That's doing the motions for that, and that all is pretty fast. But what you've got to do, spearing is be down. You're using a lot more energy.
Less
There's
streamlined.
movement in the water. You're less streamlined. You're using more thoughts. Just thinking uses
Hunting.
up more oxygen.
Big
And then
hangs.
you've got to hunt. Yeah, so I'm not going to go on a rig line and go, I can go to 30 and then do that in the ocean. I'll go and hurt myself if I do that. So
Yeah, well, you're at the sort of depth on a line too where you have to start doing mouthfeel.
yeah, that's a fun feeling. Yeah, so Rob got us doing, is it the reverse?
Reverse.
Yes, you breathe out all your air and then you're
Reverse pack.
diving down just to start getting the feeling of your residual lung volume. And yeah, that is not a nice feeling, but if you can get more comfortable with it, it helps for when you're actually at that depth for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool. It's good to hear your thoughts on it. I always look at people when I go, okay, cool. You've done 10 meters on a line on your first course. That's great. You're probably hunting in 3-5 meters with your spearing, and it's a slow and steady progression. And some people click really quickly as well, and they're almost scary because it's like, I've got to really convince you here what the risks are, and then get you to apply a level of wisdom that you don't have, because wisdom comes from experience, And some people with the most physical capability, and they can learn that in a freediving course. You've almost got to convince them, hey, you are capable of doing this, but hey, you don't have the decision-making skills yet, and the level of awareness, because you can blackout too is something that happens undetected. It's got nothing to do with
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's opened my eyes recently to just be going with some people newer than me, so not being the newbie anymore. And I've found I'm real keen to take people and help them experience it, but I really rather go with someone who's done a course. And that's because I've been with all these other people who I know have practiced a safety dive. They know some of those risks, and they've got some, safer breathing techniques, like even just surfacing. So as much as I'm keen for people to just get into it and not everyone can afford a course, I just think it's such a major thing to feel safe in the water for yourself and with other people, and just knowing that a couple of those basic things has been taught by someone else, because I'm not qualified and I'm not going to pretend that I know everything about spearfishing or pretend I'm an instructor. You want to go help people immerse themselves into a new sport, but I just think, I just couldn't. That'd be the biggest advice if anyone, and they have asked me, just find the money to do a course, because then at least you know that you've got some safety skills, and that the people who are going with you know you've got some safety skills as well.
Yeah, awesome. Arriving on day one of the spearfishing trip of a lifetime and feeling underdone, unfit, and out of breath is incredibly underwhelming. Well, I've got a great solution for you today. Go to noobspearo.com/spearready and take part in a 50-day preparation program to get you into shape to make the most of a trip of a lifetime. This is a 50-day journey designed to get you in great shape to make the most of this trip. I consulted a bunch of legends to help me put together this program, including Adam Stern, Australian freediving legend, Jared Rosenberg from Earth and Ocean Fit, and Dr. Jaap Verbaas, author of Longer and Deeper, as well as a bunch of others to help me put together a 50-day program that will get you results. And I know it works. We've put a bunch of groups through this now, and people have seen huge improvements and landed on a charter or a trip and actually been able to tap into some of their best spearfishing fitness. Check it out at noobspearo.com/spearready. Jump in a 50-day program to make the most. If you are 2 months out from that trip of a lifetime, let me encourage you, get spear ready. Go to noobspearo.com/spearready. Get Aqualite at aqualite.com.au. It's scientific rehydration that Spearos know and trust. I know because one works there, and that's why we've set up this discount code for you, 10% off when you use the code noobspearo at aqualite.com.au. Check it out. Australian-made hydration products tailored for Spearos and a whole bunch of other people that suffer from dehydration too. But check it out at aqualite.com.au. Use the code noobspearo to save 10%. Another massive part of the Killshot Spear Guns family is depth charge charters. They don't just make functional and simple, reliable spear guns. These guys also bring amazing freedive spearfishing charters to the waters around the Florida Keys, particularly around the reefs of Isla Morada. Now, they've got a bunch of captains and legends, licensed freediving instructors doing line diving, free diving courses, upping your spearfishing, going on spearfishing charters. Check it out at killshotspearguns.com. Email the team at killshotspearguns@gmail.com. But check it out. These guys have got a good thing going in the Florida area. If you are looking to do a freediving course or get out on a spearfishing charter in that part of the world, check it out at killshotspearguns.com and check out Depth Charge Charters. Love it, girls. So we're very serious though, but I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It's part of the reality of what we do. And to sort of counter that, let's talk about some of the delicates. Like I did remember listening to Elise talking about her pre-dive ritual.
Yeah, no, that's a very important one. So, for a long time I was drinking coffee, but like since Indo-Pacifics, I kind of just stopped drinking coffee because I wanted to just be more focused on my diving, which is something I never thought I'd say. But because of that, it makes, the coffee gnome when it comes knocking a little bit trickier. So, yeah, definitely one thing to keep yourself calm is to make sure you do a poo before you go out diving and you're all stuck in your suit, because it is a lot harder for girls to be able to get out of your suit than it is for dudes. Yeah, it's kind of an important one. It's only so many times you want to clamber up on the rocks, right? Yes.
And never a fun time finding something you can hide behind too. Girls in wetsuits, like blokes are rotten enough, like in a pissy wetsuit all day, and girls are a little bit more like sensitive.
We're pretty rotten.
Generally.
Yeah.
We're pretty.
It's tricky because it goes all up through your hair, but I've kind of like gone ahead and got myself one of the flexible shiwis and then added a pisset to my wetsuit, and so that you can just tuck it up under under your top part. And then when I need a pee, I can just like pop it out and go for a wee. It is pretty funny when you leave it out and you get back on the boat, everyone's kind of just staring at it. And then you can just look them in the eye and be like, yeah, mine's bigger than yours. So,
I'm not about her little weird plastic sticky outy diddle thing, eh? I think it's not about it. Works for her.
Well, at the end of the day, Laura's got piss in her hair and I don't. So,
yes. And like I was down in South Australia and we're diving the sinkholes, and for whatever reason, like I had a petroleum based neoprene, and it doesn't seem to like wee as much as the limestone based neoprene. And then you're diving in fresh water, and it almost feels like you're just marinating in your own piss for however long.
Fresh water is always going to be stinkier than salt water for some reason.
And honestly, my hair, like I've got a lot of hair. I've tried all sorts of stuff, different drinks, different hydration, letting it out my leg and my arm.
Yeah.
Like no matter what I do, like the smell of like piss-soaked hair from 6 hours diving is you just can't.
Yeah.
You can't get past that.
Yeah, well,
figure out a solution.
I just spend the time in a rental car with my poor mate Cam, and then 5mm pissy wetsuits in the back of the car. Awful.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful.
There's something special about us Spearos, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. And it's cold, so you don't even want to have the windows down in the car.
Yeah.
And so you just...
That is the benefit, though, Shrek, is that if you're cold and it's winter and you piss on your wetsuit, it is helpful.
I've heard if you keep it in, it actually does like make your core body temperature go down because your body's trying to warm that urine. Yeah. So it's better to let it out.
Yeah, okay. I've heard, though, that if you keep pissing in the winter, you do get that moments of being warmer, but then it actually is worse over time.
Interesting.
I don't know. I know, like, it's awful once you get cold, like when you're out spearfishing. Like, for me, it actually takes me a while to get cold, but then when I'm cold, it takes me quite a long while to warm back up again. And so if you're out on a big dive day and you get cold, it's like, shit, like, it's going to take me ages to warm up. Do you guys have similar stuff? Like, what are wetsuits like for girls now, and what do you guys recommend? Because I know that's kind of one sticking point.
Yeah, I mean, we all come in different shapes and sizes, but I've found, for me personally, the Weddy women's range is actually really good, especially because you can buy the tops and the bottoms as different sizes if you need.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, and you can go in and try them all on, and like, I might be a little bit on the shorter side sometimes. So if I need, like, I can always like get them to cut the legs off a little bit and like sew it up right in the shop for me. So yeah, and if there's like for Laura, like she's got a big head. Shape. She's got quite a. I mean, like in comparison, she needed to get a little bit of extra put into her hood.
Okay, all right. I think I'll cover this section. What she means is we're both pretty thick, athletic humans, but different heights. I'm definitely the taller one. I also have had to get a panel put in my suit for my head because my hair and my head were too big for the ladies' smaller size.
Okay.
So luckily for us, the team at Weddy and Darren are happy to make alterations to parts of our suits for stuff like that, and I think that's been pretty key. Like, get the women's suits because they are better fitting, especially like around the armpit, shoulder area.
Yeah.
I even had a woman's suit when I first started that was too big for me. It didn't fit, but we found that
Tell us about the butt pad.
All right, I also had to have a piece inserted where my butt was. All right, okay. So, no, I have not found the perfect suit for my shape yet. But we both wear the Weddy ones and have had alterations to them. And I've had to get butt pads put in and head panels put in.
That's just because of rough wear, actually, on the rocks. So
to get them fitting you, and I did find it strange to get talked into going like down a smaller or two sizes.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh no, that'll be too small for me. But that whole thing and being able to talk to people about, I don't even know how to explain it. But when you get diving more and you realise that actually having a close fitting suit is better than having one that's too big and all that kind of stuff. But yes, not the perfect suit existing, I don't think. I think maybe custom suits are probably the way to go would be my answer to that.
Yeah, but I have found the easiest is the women's. And then obviously in winter things get a little bit more snug, and then with summer. But that's what we dive with.
What's the process for getting your Weddy customised? Like at Weddy, do you just talk to them or like?
Honestly, it's so easy. Like you can go in and explain to the person at the shop front what you need. If they're not quite getting it, like if they're not quite getting the inspiration that you've got and what you're wanting, there's a person at the back of the shop that is literally sitting there sewing.
Oh wow!
And you can go back there and just talk to the seamstress, and they'll design it or do what they need to do for you, which is really cool. And they'll take the measurements. Like for me, I chopped my thumb off when I was a kid.
Show me.
A small wee baby. And so my thumbs up, man.
Oh, wow.
I can't hitchhike north,
Yeah.
So like for me, when I load my gun, the thumb like flap just gets stuck. So I get my my gloves made like so that I can fit that so it doesn't get stuck in the bands as you're pulling it back. Stuff like that, like easy to do. And it's like $10 and that, or like for a full suit like rip or whatever, it's only really up to like $60 for something added in, so it's not much.
Yeah,
Big head, small thumbs. Weddy, you've got you covered.
Sounds like you guys have got your first sponsor lined up. That's bloody good.
No, they're good to us. Yeah. I think you just got to advocate for something doesn't fit right and it's annoying you. Ask someone to sort it.
Yeah.
Make it more comfortable.
Nice. Tougher situation, guys. What have you scared the shit out of yourself out diving? And if so, love to hear about it and what you learned.
I think I'm going to leave this. I haven't really had any really, really tough situations, so I'm just going to leave this one to Laura. This is where the bum pad started.
Everyday diving with me is probably a bit tough for Elise when I first started, but I do have a bit of a story about this one. I did ask their permission to share it too, actually. So I was pretty early on in the game and going with the theory of say yes to every boat offer. One of the boys in my smaller rig group from Fundies just chucked out a message and said, does anyone want to come diving? I'd never dived with the guy before. His name's Anton, lovely human. So we headed out. It was like the end of daylight savings. So it was one of those days where, beautiful weather, real clear viz. People had been reporting in that it was good in the morning. So we jumped in to go to Tiri Tiri Mātangi, this place called Shag Rock. I don't know, do you know that place, Shrek?
No.
Oh, basically, it's not too far out of Auckland. We just headed out in the afternoon. It was honestly like best conditions. Yeah, anchored the boat, got in. I'm with someone I've never dived with. We're sort of having a little look around the rock, and a couple minutes goes by, and we come around the edge of the rock, pop our heads up, and Anton's like, the boat's gone.
Whoa.
And I'm kind of just like, what? And because I don't know about all this boat stuff. I don't know if I meant to do something. What does he mean it's gone? And we it just unrolls this like flurry of like us scrambling out onto the edge of this rock, and we look out towards, I think it's Kawo Island, and it's just a gap that goes straight out to sea, and you can just see his silver boat. And he's just like, I was probably just being a muff. I know at this point I'd like caught my weight belt on the rock, tangled myself in my gun. You know, both of our guns are loaded. He's starting to take his weight belt off. He drops his gun and he's like, gets in the water with his float boat. Tells me before he gets in, I'm going to get my boat. And I'm just like, we're looking around. When we got in, there was quite a few boats around.
Yeah.
By this point, when we get out, it's like 10 knots. So this boat is just like flying out to sea. And I literally mean when I say we looked, we could only just see the kind of glimmering bit of the silver of his boat.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, should I stop him? But he got in, he started kicking. I'm on this kind of little shallow rock thing that's got this other taller bit. And so I'm kind of, I think by the time he got in the water, I was kind of starting to get a bit panicked because I was genuinely was concerned he wasn't going to come back. Looking at him swimming towards this boat on his little orange float boat, I think the last thing he said to me as he jumped in was like, go and wave down a boat if you can. And I was like, right, okay, he's told me to do this one thing.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of a little bit low-key shaking as well. And I've got like all my line and everything in my float and I've taken my flippers off and I'm holding them, try and climb over this rock. And this is a bit that Elise was referring to is because I fall over into this like hole.
I always make it sound more dodgy than it is.
Yeah, I hit my knee, I almost smashed my face. So I let go of a fin. So at this point I've got like my line wrapped up. I've lost a fin. I've smacked my knee and part of my elbow. And I'm on top of this rock holding my yellow wetty float boat. Trying to wave down a boat and I'm looking around. There's just no one around.
Yeah.
Safe to say. It's getting dark at that point too.
Getting dark. I think we'd told some people where we were going. And I think I spent 20 to 40 minutes just on this rock, like waving my float boat and looking out to him. And at one point, I just realised the boat has stopped. And so the sun or whatever light was at that point was just kind of hit the boat and I could tell that he wasn't on the float boat anymore. So he's not on the float boat and the boat's turned side on. And what ended up happening, to not make my long story even longer, basically the anchor that was out, which was out at about 25 to 30 metres. Had grabbed on probably the only pinnacly bit, he reckons, in that one area, and the boat had stopped, so he managed to catch up. So he jumped off the float boat. And I think he said on his GPS it was 1 nautical mile that he swam. So I don't know if that's like 2 or 3K swimming.
Yeah, nearly 2K. Well, that's actually over 2K. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got to his boat, devoured a bag of lolly snakes and a Gatorade that I'd put on there, and drove back to me to pick me up. And got on the boat, hugged him. We looked at each other all weirdly and realised pretty much how hairy that situation could have been. I didn't have any like safety devices on me. I couldn't have pressed anything. I wasn't wearing a watch.
Yeah.
Pretty. Well, I mean, we laugh about it now, but it was pretty scary to be fair.
We also did learn from that. Like now I take around with me in my float boat like a little first aid kit, and in the tiny little waterproof first aid kit, it's got a tourniquet, it's got a PLB, it's got just some like bandages for packing wounds. Like that's always on the kit.
What's a PLB?
I mean,
it's a personal locator beam, so beacon, so that like. Because we talked to Anton and we all unpacked and I was like, do you think that like instead of swimming after a boat, it would have been better for you at that point to like press the button, you know? Basically, you press the button, it's GPS located, it tells you that you're in trouble, and then like it will alert the people that you have as your emergency contacts on it, and then it also alerts the like police or Coast Guard or whatever you need at that time, emergency services.
But yeah, I mean, Anton was an absolute legend. We probably both don't know whether he still should have done that at the time. I don't know if you'd ask him now whether he'd say he'd do the same thing. He probably would. He went to his boat. Luckily, he got it. The universe was on our side. But yes, in future, I would like to have some safety items. And it was a bit scary, but it was also good just to realise quite early on in my spearfishing that things can go really badly. I thought about facts like I don't know really how to anchor a boat, I can't drive a boat, all those different things that it made me think about and be aware how quickly things can go a bit hairy.
That's an awesome story, Laura. You said it was long, but it was long for a reason and it was great. And there were some really practical takeaways there too. Absolutely love it. One of the beautiful things about having a boat license course and a requirement to have one is that people do have a slightly greater awareness about some of the stuff on boats, because in New Zealand there's no boat license test. You just kind of go out and learn, Is that right?
It's wild.
That's hectic.
Yeah.
I mean, he has been driving boats for years. Like,
Yeah.
he's a very experienced skipper.
Yeah.
It just happened that day that it just...
Oh, and we've
Decidedly.
since found out that where he anchored, even though we got him when it was calm and then when it got up to 10 knots, we've found out since that a number of people in our club have had similar situations
Yeah.
in that exact spot.
Yeah.
And boats have come unanchored there before, so...
Yeah, I wasn't actually talking about Anton. I mean, I think it's great if everyone on the boat's kind of got a pretty decent level of awareness about it. And I wasn't having a shot at Laura either, but I'm just saying, like...
Oh, I'd have been no help. Like, if I'd even been able to swim to the boat, what would I have done? Got on, like, touched a bunch of buttons, like I probably would have caused more of a drama. So you're not wrong. Like, being able to be on a boat and know where people's safety gear is, know where their keys are, know where their phone, like just being able to think through those things. But yeah, basic boat knowledge is something I definitely want to upskill in so that I am more useful in a dangerous situation.
I don't know, like if it's a normal thing for just New Zealand, because you don't hear about it as much overseas, but it sounds like overseas more people dive with a boatie, whereas we just like park up somewhere, find a really good spot to anchor, and then we all jump in, unless it's like hectic conditions, and then we'll have one person like being boaty. So,
do you guys follow the qualified captain on Instagram?
not
I think I do actually, but only recently. And I think is it a recent podcast?
No.
has he been on
The
a
qualified
podcast?
captain it's an aggregator for the stupidest boating shit you ever see. Like, there are just
sweet.
absolute morons on there doing the dumbest shit in the world on boats and nearly killing people or even killing
dear.
people. It's unfortunately like world's funniest home videos for people that kind of know boats, but it's not that funny because you're like, holy shit, like, and some most of the time they get away with it. But like, I just simply draw attention to it for others. It's funny, but also kind of alarming at the same time. But I didn't grow up on boats either, Laura, and I loved them. I got out fishing a few times, but really got shown nothing. And you know, I'm not a big fan of overregulation and licensing in general, but the boat course that you do here in Australia, like there is a lot of practicalities in it. And part of it is a practical component where you demonstrate safe handling of the boat and stuff like that. It does give you at least a touching level of knowledge on the basics of it all. And it is something I wonder about. I don't know if they've done any statistical analysis of like, does it actually make a difference? Because you've got New Zealand right there and then Australia, arguably similar boating conditions in some parts of the country. I wonder if Australia is actually a safer boating country because of the licensing or not. But
it could be. I mean, we've all got like, we do have like the option for it. Like we got the Coast Guard runs, day skippers, and then boat masters.
Yeah, right.
But that is optional. Like, and most people do it. But then there are people that just buy a boat and take it out that day, and you just watch the carnage unfold. You know.
Well, like it's something some of the good spearfishing clubs here do, or the governing bodies like the AUFQ used to subsidise some safety courses and stuff. I wonder if it's a role Spearfishing New Zealand could play in helping upskill the different members and stuff.
Definitely better than jumping on a boat with someone you've never dived with and then telling you to just drive the dinghy. It's happened to me a couple of times.
Yes,
and you just got to figure it out, and that's not good for anyone.
I recently went out with my mate. He's an ex-federal copper and a great bloke. And he asked me to bring a couple of people, and I brought a few people that had done courses with me. And I thought they had a bit of promise, and they were pretty cool people to be around. So why not take them out for another day of spearfishing? And everyone puts in fuel, whatever. But he gave them a really good sort of initiation onto the boat. Like, hey, this is where the EPIRB is. These are where the life jackets are. The flares are here. The first aid kit is here. These are the basic controls. Couple of do's and don'ts, you know, and like just that 5-10 minutes gives people a lot more confidence about where stuff is and what to do. But it's not, you know, honestly, like most of the time we get to the boat ramp and it's like first light and we're like banging to get out and shoot some fish. So I get it. It's like the ivory tower perfect scenario stuff, but I would like to see a bit more. Sometimes with weather and commitments, it's a long time between drinks in your spearfishing journey. If you want a dry training program that can keep you in some kind of shape for spearfishing, check out Ted Hardy's 28-day freediving transformation at noobspearo.com/Ted. That's noobspearo.com/Ted. Now, the 28-day freediving transformation is just a practical dry training plan that Ted Hardy will walk you through, and it will help you get results even if you can't get wet at the moment. Check it out at noobspearo.com/Ted.
If your buddy had a blackout on your next spearfishing trip, think, what would the outcome of that be? Do you know how to revive someone from a blackout? Would you even be in a position to do something about it? Or would you be diving, chasing after a fish as your buddy sinks down to the bottom of the ocean? Do you know where most blackouts happen? Do you know what you can do to minimize your risk of having a blackout? My name is Ted Hardy, and I'm the founder of freedivingsafety.com. In my free online course, you will learn the truth about shallow water blackout, the myth of, I don't push myself, I know my limits, I'm in tune with my body, how to minimize your risk of having a blackout, and most importantly, how to save your buddy's life if they have one. Visit freedivingsafety.com to sign up for your free course today. Dive safe out there. It's just not even that hard.
Cool. It was good. I like the conversation. Thanks for sharing that, Laura. Let's go Veterans Vault, guys. So both of you have been involved in a few comps and you like the comp scene, particularly the social aspect of it. Elise, it sounds like you're fairly competitive. Laura, it sounds like you might be getting that way. I'd love to hear what it is about comps that you like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the reason I started doing comps is because I'd heard that, so I was just really hungry for knowledge, and I was really hungry for trying to improve. And I'd heard if you do competitions, you're going to learn pretty quickly, and you're going to be surrounded by a lot of people who know what they're doing. So I just kind of gave myself the goal, okay, I really want to learn. I think I spent a few weeks just completely bugging the people on Spearfishing New Zealand. Shout out to Chris Marshall for all the reply emails. I was just asking every question under the sun about comps. And then eventually showed up for my first competition, which was the Nationals. And that wasn't on purpose. It's just that was next and I was keen. So showed up for that, did the women's event, managed to find a sweever, which is your safety diver that follows you around. And then, managed to jump on a boat. I think I jumped on Herb's boat the first time round. And I just caught the bug for it. And I was like, this is so cool. So my goal was to just give myself a year to do absolutely every single comp that I could come across. So I did the women's, and then 2 days later, I did the opens as well, because it's all in one area. And I had my buddy Hamish come up for that. And we had a heap of fun. It was quite a bit of carnage, that comp. I think a boat sunk, swam past, and I was like, that's not meant to be down there. I don't know what had happened, but we were out at the Hen and Chicks. It was pretty radical, actually. Herb connected his gigantic boat to with the twin motors on the back, and managed to pull it out from the bottom of the sea. And then the boys are jumping on. John's up on the back of it, bailing water out of it. It was crazy weather. It was gusting, I don't know, 18 knots or something like that. It was just hectic. And I was just something's wrong with me, because I just looked around and I was like, this is sick. This is so fun.
It's wild, isn't it?
It's just the stuff that you see and you're like, well, this is great. You're getting rained on sideways, and man, the swells that were coming in were just hectic. Anyway, gave myself the goal to do that. And then also talked Laura into it, because she's my adventure buddy. And both of us just learnt so much, just going to every single one, and also just met a bunch of really cool people, and we're able to surround ourselves with people that we could ask questions to. And so I've done 3 nationals now. And it's just so cool seeing the improvements per year with your actual diving, and I really like that. The first one definitely wasn't expecting to come anywhere, but definitely was last, and that's fine. But I just learnt so much that day that it just, I learned how to hunt snapper. I learned how to I don't know. You can go out and hunt. You can go out and do recreational spearing, But then in a competition, it's way different. You're all in the same area and you have to learn how to dive in a comp, I guess. And then I could just put my focus on that. I think I was going through quite a bit of life stuff at that point, so I just had to have something to focus on, and just doing comps really helped me like nail into that. Yeah, I don't know if that answered the question. I think I just keep telling you how much I like it. Yeah,
That's good. That was what I was trying to capture. Like what?
Yeah.
Like one thing when you talk about your passion for something is other people kind of get a sense of it, and then they decide based on how much you like something whether they want to do it themselves. So it's cool.
Yeah. Well, I love it now. Like that's kind of why I started, but now I love it because it's like you've got a list of different species and you have to like articulate how to hunt each species. So it's like kind of showing like, okay, like that comp we did up north, it was almost just like we were checking them off the list. We're like, okay, we'll start with the kingfish, we'll get that. Yep, we've done that. We've shot like a big school of Kiwis came in, so we stopped, shot one of those, had it dangling on the line, went down, shot a kingy that came in for that, and then we're like, yep, tick. Put that on the line, put that there, put that in the float boat, and then we're like, what's next? So we need a trev. Okay, so we'll go find this weed line. Oh, now we need butters, so we'll go find some of this particular weed that they love hanging out in, and we'll just go lie down in the weed and wait for them to rise up around us, It just shows you different skills that you need to do to hunt different species.
Yeah,
I really like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's an acquisition. It's kind of like it forces you to be strategic, and then there's so much skills developed when you have to do something with some sort of what would you call it? Like some boundaries around it. It just forces that development, and I think it forces you to speed it up. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had quite a few Spearos comment on whether they agree with competing or why they wouldn't like it as well, and we find that quite interesting because it's almost like people's perceived idea of what would be happening in a comp is actually not always that correct either. And I find that because people think, oh, well, it's high-paced. It is high-paced, but there's still, like, for instance, if you are, trying to get a snapper, you can't rush around and be super noisy. So there's still so many different parts of it that are quite calming and are quite fun. Like, a lot of people, I think, have that perception. It's not fun. It's rushed, it's high-paced, you must be taking lots of species, that's not good for the fish, So it's just, it is quite, I guess it's become like a bit of an angle for us to dispel what people think about competitions because we just love it so much and we've just had so much fun and had so many adventures and gone to so many awesome places and met so many awesome people that it's, I reckon it's why that I have learnt so much so fast and how I've met so many awesome people in the Spearo community as well. And I mean, we're just out there enjoying like some of the best parts of New Zealand as well. So it's just,
that's kind of also how it started because like I was like, how are we going to get out on a boat without like, owning a boat or knowing anyone? So if I show up to comp, they're going to have to put me one. So, but yeah, it can be really humbling too, like some days you go and you're trying your hardest and you don't do well at all. And that's kind of okay as well. And then, there's been a lot of, people say heaps of stuff, I've had people be like, I don't want to, I'll enter a competition, but I'm only going to enter it when I know I'm going to win it. And you're like, well, it's kind of not how it happens. You're going to show up and you're going to learn a lot. And you kind of got to just accept that for the first few ones, even if you're a great Spearo, you're going to learn a lot and you're probably actually not going to win. You're probably just going to learn a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, local knowledge is a massive part of comps too. And then doesn't matter how good you are. Like someone said to me, like comps are like 1/3 skill, 1/3 local knowledge, and 1/3 luck. And,
I think who you dive with makes a big difference too, because I really enjoy pair diving. I did really enjoy singular diving, which, those people who don't know, the women's and the juniors, you dive on your own with a sweever who doesn't shoot with you. So they're not helping you make decisions. They're not shooting fish. Whereas when you dive with someone else, I think that can be such a big element. Like if you get along with your dive buddy, if you know them, if both of you have dived together before, all those aspects can make a huge difference to a day not going well, to sharing your knowledge, to being able to communicate. Like I know me and Elise have had quite a few funny moments when we first started competing together of like, all right, okay, you're on the long line. So you're making the next couple of decisions, and then 2 minutes later we're both going on two different directions towards a group of kahawai and pulling each other's guns out of our hands, which is not the plan, but it's
probably the only time we've ever been grumpy at each other, but then we'd like stop and have a talk about it, and then we'd go back and do the same thing again.
But, you're both just learning to read how the other one dives and then trust the other person and back them up and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's also what sport is all about. It's being in a team and, just supporting each other and feeling those successes together. And
We've spent a lot of time talking to each other on the surface about what to do and how to dive. And I think it's only probably halfway through last year that, or maybe at the start of this year. Anyway, we just we're diving in a comp and I just noticed we haven't talked to each other all day. And it's because we've just me and Laura have kind of just worked out the kinks and we kind of just know how each other move now. So it's really cool.
Few little hand signals and stuff, and instead of, is this what you mean, Elise? Because I used to have to say that a lot.
I was going to say,
what was going on.
I was going to say to you, blokes was so non-verbal. We talk each other in grunts and good times. So when we go out spearfishing, it's sometimes spending a long time talking at the surface is really jarring and kind of not great. What are some of the non-verbal signals that you guys have developed?
I mean, we do we have a couple, kingfish, or you can't really see it.
Kingfish is making a
shark.
crown.
Yes, that's for shark. Yeah,
my favourite one is that because I don't like those
single
guys.
Hand on the forehead for shark.
The okay, we do the okay to each other just to a lot of it's actually now that I think of it, a lot of it's eye contact.
Yeah.
So as your buddy's coming up, I'm looking at her eyes. And I'm just making sure she's okay. And, once I know that she's all right, I'll wait for another 30 seconds, check her eyes again. Yep, she's good. And then I'll go to dive. We just kind of, there's a knowing, I'll know that once she's up, she's safe. And we've changed the lines around depending on what depth we're in. Then I'll know that it's my turn to dive.
Probably more reading each other's body now that you mentioned, have we got signals? We don't actually have that many kind of, hand signals or anything, which would be cool. But I think, it's more of a body language thing and maybe a directional hand, which we actually use in the car when we're driving places as well, instead of left and right, because we both stuff that up so often. So it's kind of a...
Go that way.
A chopping motion. Or if it gets really severe, you pull your hammer out.
Yeah.
Yeah, only when Elise is rude to me.
It's just, I get competitive, okay?
Yeah. So, let's just say you guys have got a comp coming up. It's 2 weeks out. When do you start looking at the scorecard and the rules and then the areas you're going to dive and putting together a bit of a plan? Who do you talk to? All that sort of stuff.
If it's a fun comp, we'll kind of just be, a lot of the time they just put that stuff out the night before. Whereas when we're both looking towards nationals, I mean, we're already thinking about Stewart Island and we're already thinking about starting to have a look online at the, topography or
that's
the
late
layout
next year, isn't
of the
it?
Water. What's that?
Late next year, isn't it, Stewart Island?
This year, December.
This year, December.
Oh,
yeah. So
I got an invite for that. I was like, ooh.
Ooh, you should come.
Yeah,
Go on.
it's a big travel.
Do it.
It's always a little tricky.
Think of
But if it's a bigger comp, we'll be thinking about that or a few months out already starting to think about how you can get fit enough for that. I know for me, the competing season is kind of starting in November, so I'm already kind of doing my own fitness program and eating healthy and doing my training now so that by then I'll be ready for it. We'll generally stop eating dairy a week or two before. I'll try to stop having a beverage at night depending on the stress levels.
This might not be something Elise has had to do as much, but say for me with the Wellington comp, I was diving my own and I didn't know the Wellington species of fish. So I did everything from we did a Wellington comp that was just a casual one before the Wellington Nationals because we're we can go to that area, practice in that area, planned a trip. I'd never seen blue cod, so I wanted to see what they look like so I could shoot one. And that's one of the fish that I got in the women's comp.
Wow.
And in all honesty, I probably wouldn't have known how to hunt them just because I knew what they looked like. So that being able to go to those places is helpful if you can, scout them. But in terms of, looking at videos online and photos and fish species books and stuff like that stuff definitely helps someone like me anyway because, if you don't know what it looks like or you haven't seen what it looks like underwater, makes it pretty hard to guarantee that you'll be able to get that species.
Do you go through a scorecard and then sort of, I know some people just go for the points-based easy stuff, that's within, they develop a strategy around okay, these 4 or 5 species. They're all pretty easy and they're all going to be in pretty similar ground. We just go and punch out 3 or 4 of them before we head out a bit wider and maybe look for some more game fish type stuff. Or
Yeah, it depends on the day and what the current's doing. And the tides, because, perhaps at 10 a.m. by the time you swim there at the start, the pelagics won't actually be there because of the tide. So you're kind of looking at the tide, you're looking at the layout underwater, seeing if you can find like certain pinnacles that you think that they might be around. So ideally, if you can get to a spot where there's like the pelagics and you can get them done at the start, it makes the rest of it a lot more relaxed. But then again, sometimes it's good to go the other way and just be like, try pick up your basics, or like a comp can be one based off of butterfish, getting your basics and then swimming out to try get your pelagics or your species. But you can't actually always rely on them being there. So yes, if the main thing for me in a comp is if you see it, don't swim past it. Like get that in your float boat. And then carry on to what your plan is doing. Like if I swim past some blue mau and they're just coming past, I might not actually come back to this area and that might be of size. So I'm just going to shoot that, put that in my float boat now so I know I've got it. Yeah, don't swim past fish.
Yeah, don't. And also with those sort of easier fish, making sure that you get quite big ones, because in comps, as you'd know,
not really.
It's what you can show. Oh, I thought you've done some recent comps, so I know you.
Yeah, I did the recent nationals, but like I think that was like my 4th comp, and like 2 or 3 of them have all been social comps. That was the first serious one I think I've ever really done. Yeah.
Oh, good job.
Or we even take our casual ones a little bit seriously sometimes, but yeah, it's just little things knowing that those comp fish actually have to be heavier than a legal fish on a normal recreational spearfishing day, and like you learn that spending a little time even on the basic easy fish and making sure they're of size could actually be 100, 200, 300 grams difference when you go to weigh-in. So lots of little things, and yeah, like Elise said, you just don't go, we'll see those later on, because pretty much you never do.
Yeah, we did. I was planning to go over and spear the nationals with my mate Tom. Tom pulled up real bad back injury sort of 4 or 5 days before we were due to leave. So I partnered up with my buddy Derek over there, and we only ended up doing 2 out of the 3 days of the comp because we wanted to go north and go on a bit of an adventure with our mate Bert. So, but it was fun. I did enjoy it. I do like aspects of competition diving. I don't like aspects of competition diving too. And if I had my choice, would I rather go to a comp or go out just diving by myself? I'm just going to, not by myself, I mean just with mates casually.
Yeah.
For me, I'm still in that second camp, But it is a cool experience and it is very different. And I'd encourage everyone to have a go at least one, because then at least you've got a more informed perspective, and you do meet cool people. Like I really like the social aspect to it.
Yeah, it's super cool. Like we've met so many good people through it. Like even tonight we've got a mate coming around that's going to stay with us, that we met through comps, and, you just start to know people from around the country as well. For me, I've been able to meet some people from overseas, like Australia and Tahiti and like the New Caledonia people. Like it's a really cool community, and you keep seeing the faces each year. And you keep seeing the faces at each comp. And now we know that if we're going up to like way up north, we've got people we can call and be like, yo, what are you doing? Let's go out for a boatie. And then they'll be like, yeah, sweet, let's go spearing. And we'll get out into the water with each other, which is so cool.
Yeah. I love that aspect to it too. Yeah.
We love recreational diving just as much as comp diving. We just like the drive every now and again to go hard,
It's good to have
a good reason to keep going to sorry, cut you off.
No, having a planned event on the calendar too, Laura.
Yeah, and winter, like sometimes, I personally don't get put off by winter yet because I'm fresh, but I've heard from other divers that, they kind of only dive in good conditions in summer. So it's a good reason to keep going to different places and take trips up north, and having comps on, I think, breaks up those times of the year where it's a bit cold or a bit less fishy as well. Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with going and learning to dive, keeping your fitness up and having fun when there's not as many fish, like still diving.
Yeah, When I went over to the comp too, another cool thing I did was I went over with the Coffs crew, because Tom's from down there. And so we had a messenger chat, and then like one of us did like a species guide up, and then there was like a lot of chit chat about the different spots and kind of some of the different stuff. And even that aspect of sort of social learning and aiming at it together was kind of cool. I thought that was a real cool way to do it as well. Do you guys, how competitive are you guys? Like out of 10, like give me an idea. Give yourself a score. No, actually, Laura, you give Elise a score out of 10 because it'll be more honest.
Do you mean just in relation to a spearfishing competition day?
Yeah.
Depends if she thinks she's behind or not, eh? Honestly, I don't know. It's hard to answer because we've had lots of different comps. I would say, just like if I can try and concise it without giving you words, if I gave you a number out of 10, how competitive is she on a dive day in a competition that she wants to do well at? 11. And I don't mean that in a rude way. I mean that in it's impressive.
Yeah.
11 out of 10 way. Yeah.
When you are driven to do something, it makes you a lot more determined and you can pull more stuff out of yourself than you realise you had, which is one of the cool aspects of competition, you know.
I just don't think it's worth doing something if you're not going to do it with everything, you know?
Yeah.
But in the same account, she's the first person to, you know, like, I was in my first women's comp. I only got 4 fish. She's still so pumped for me. So it doesn't come with that, you know, I'm out to dominate everybody else and I'm not going to celebrate anyone else. So I love that about Elise, that she can be so frosted about it and be really seriously wanting to do well and probably be, you know, critique herself.
Yeah.
But that's how you get better at stuff, I guess. And she's still pumped for everyone else with how they do. And she's still humble when I beat her recently.
She beat me good too. It was good.
Nice. That's good. Well, that's cool. Ladies, we've got to wrap it up. Let's do fast-paced round of questions and then we'll head on out.
Yes, right.
Elise, single best piece of advice you've ever been given for spearfishing?
Okay. When you feel the need to speed up, slow down. It's like from Kimmy Winner's TED Talk.
Yes, it's a good one. Laura, if you had to start all over again, what would you do differently?
Spend more time wearing a good mask and a good snorkel in the pool before I went spearfishing and probably read a fish identification book.
Oh, nice. Good answers. Love that. Ladies, together, if you were going to go to a dream spearfishing destination, where would you like to go to together?
Somewhere hot.
Yeah, somewhere tropical, hot.
Yeah.
Bikini seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere we can get a tan while getting a fish.
And jellyfish stung too.
Ah, yeah, those.
Elise, last question for you. What's something a little different from everyone else that you do? Oh, well, actually, the shiwi and the pisset was.
Well, there is that, which is a winner. That's been life changing. That's been so good. I don't know. It's just it's not that different to most people, but I'm just hungry for it. I just want to go, I just love it. And I just want to, I don't know, maybe that's called being obsessed with something, but I just love spearfishing and I want to do the best I can at it, I guess. The drive for it, I guess.
Cool. Laura, could you describe what the spearfishing experience means to you in one sentence?
No.
One sentence, Laura.
That's actually an answer all in itself, isn't it? Yeah.
I guess it's a time to connect with nature, myself, and my food source.
Ooh.
Awesome. Guys, awesome. Where can people come and find Spearo Diaries? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so we're on Instagram, Spearo.diaries. We're recently on Facebook. We figured that out. You can listen to us on Spotify. Soon you can listen to us on YouTube and Apple. But yeah, right now Spotify and Instagram is our two main spots to find us.
Or anywhere with about a kilometre radius of us when we're talking. It's pretty loud.
Awesome, guys. It's been awesome to have you on the podcast, and I wish you all the best with Spearo Diaries. Guys, go and have a listen to them and subscribe, follow them around. They're going to keep doing this thing hopefully for years and years and go on their own interviewing journey. So thanks for coming on, guys.
I appreciate you so much.
Thanks, heaps, Shrek.
Hey, guys. Hope you enjoyed the Dear Spearfishing Diary with two Kiwi mermaids, Elise and Laura. Elise Clynes and Laura Kuggeleijn. absolute characters, proper frothers, like I said in the intro. Hope you enjoyed today's interview. If you did, again, leave us a review wherever you listen to the podcast. A bunch of people have done so on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Wherever you listen, it's always helpful. Tell your mates about the show, particularly if you enjoy it. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anyone. Particularly don't tell my mum. She's super proud of me for some reason. But people that are above and beyond, they become patrons of the Noob Spearo podcast. You can do that at patreon.com/Noob Spearo. I'd love to have you putting fuel in the Noob Spearo outboard, keeping the sucker on the road. Really appreciate it. Hey, next week we're off to Jamaica. Not only do they have great accents, awesome rum, and amazing music like Bob Marley and any other sort of good reggae, but they have got the Jamaican spearfishing pastor, Sean Wilson, and I sit down for a really good, decent chat with him and enjoy that Jamaican accent for a full hour and a bit. So come back next week, Jamaican spearfishing pastor. As usual, legends, thanks for listening. Tell your mates about it. Can't say that enough. All good, Shrek, over and out. I remember the first time a shark took my Spanish mackerel. The delight of getting close enough to plant a shot mid-body was soon supplanted by the disappointment of a slack rig line as I pulled in my spear gun with nothing to show for it. That moment is captured in every bit of Fuck the Taxman gear, from UV-resistant long-sleeve fish shirts like Not My First Rodeo jersey, right through to Death and Taxes beach towels. Get amongst it all at fuckthetaxman.com. Tongue-in-cheek gear that only Spearos and fish shows really understand. Right now, get a free hat of your choice when you spend $100 or more at fuckthetaxman.com. Check it out again, fuckthetaxman.com. Use the code NoobSpearo and get yourself a free hat of your choice when you spend more than $100. Are you US based, looking for freediving, spearfishing gear? Neptonics is the best. Their online website's so easy to use. If you've got any questions, Jerry and the team answer questions via phone, email. Anyway, they've got an easy contact form on the site. These guys are absolute legends, and if they sell it, they believe in it, they back it, they use it themselves. It's tough gear that works. Visit neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10% on any order at neptonics.com. That's right, use the code NOOB10, N-O-O-B 10 on your next order. Save 10% at neptonics.com. Today's Noob Spearo podcast is brought to you in partnership with Adreno. Live it, breathe it with the world's largest dive store. Huge range of equipment, always growing, always changing. They are the world's largest dive store. They are available just about everywhere. They have hassle-free returns, massive range of equipment, price match guarantee, and you can check them out online. You can even use the code NoobSpearo to save $20 on every purchase over $200 at adreno.com.au. Check them out. Boom.